Hi, welcome back to the Wheel of Life online retreat.
大家好，欢迎回到生命之轮线上进修营。
And I'm happy that Stanley's translating for me again.
很
Thank
开
you.
心，就是 Stanley 再次替我翻译，谢谢你。
The name of this session is Dead End Beginning.
然后这一堂课的名字叫做
Dead end means
beginning, yeah，
blocked way.
就是 dead end 的意思就是说死胡同没有出路的，然后开始。
So the picture you see here is an alleyway, a narrow street.
这里你看到的一张照片就是一个非常狭窄的小巷，
And somebody built a wall there and you can't go any
然后
further.
有人在那个尽头呢，就是建了一堵墙，所以是死路一条，没有出路的。
And this whole class is going to be about, how is it that you take rebirth?
那这一整堂课讲的都是关于你是如何受生的。
And then about halfway through the class, we're going to switch horses and go in a different way.
然后在这堂课讲到一半的时候，我们要换一匹马去到另外一个地方。
Sumba kesidu ningsam jortsulni. So here's the third section about, how is it that we have such trouble in this life?
那以下是我们要讲到的是今生为什么有这么多麻烦的这一部分内容的第三部分。
And ningsam jor here is an interesting idiom.
宁强卓这个词是很有意思的一个俚语，
And it means, how do we make the crossing into a new life, like crossing a river into a new country?
它讲的是我们如何去跨越，然后到下一世去，就好像你从这边跨越到河的对岸一样，去过河。
Nyalke latsuna. So there are different ways to take birth, like egg,
那受生有不同的方式，譬如说有这个卵生，
warmth and moisture, like mosquitoes.
还有就是这个湿生，像这个蚊子一样出生的方式，就是湿生。
Miraculous birth, like Padmasambhava.
有化生，譬如说像这个莲花生大师的化生。
But we can say standard birth for people like us.
那我们也可以说，对我们这样的生命来讲，一个比较标准的出生方式
It's called Nyalke.
叫 Nyalke。
Nyalke means to be born in a womb of a woman.
Nyalke 的意思就是胎生，就是在这个女士的这个子宫当中受生。
And here's how it happens.
那以下它就是这样发生，讲的是它怎样发生的。
And you can find good descriptions in the Vinaya scriptures.
你可以在这个戒律的经典当中能够看到很好的相关的描述，
Because they are discussing when does the person start.
因为他们有在讨论说一个人的生命是从什么时候开始。
And Buddhism says that there is a living being at the moment of conception.
然后佛教的说法是，当受精卵形成的时候，那一刻开始就已经有有情的生命在了。
Pame kutratla, pama nyapo chepatong. So it's kind of a hallucination.
它有点像是一种幻觉，
And the Bardo spirit being,
就是这个中有生的生命，
they enter the womb,
他们进入到了子宫，
and the mother's blood, menstrual blood, and the father's semen is there.
然后父母的精血都在那里。
And they have this hallucination where they see their father and their mother.
然后他们有产生这样的幻觉，其中看到了他的父母亲
And having sex.
在交合，
And they're like, oh, what's that? It looks very, very fun.
然后他们就会想说，哦，那是什么情况？看上去很好玩啊。
And so they come closer and
然
closer.
后他们就越来越接近。
And there's a tradition here. It says, they're chadangi gyuk.
这里有一个传统说他们是 chadangi gyuk。
Gyuk means they hurry to that place.
gyuk 的意思就是他们匆忙的赶到那个地方，
And then they have different emotions.
然后有不同的情绪。
And the one I remember my teacher describing.
我记得我的老师有跟我描述过的一种，
So it's called chakdang. Chakdang means attracted and unattracted, repulsed.
Shutdown 有两种 shutdown， 一种就是你感觉到有吸引力的，另外一种是感觉有点不喜欢的。
Chak means if the Bardo being, for example, is going to be a male.
Chat 的意思就是说，如果这个中有的生命呢将要受生为男性，
Then they see sex going on and, like all males, they are, wow, what's that? What's that?
他们看到这样的交合在发生，正如所有的男性都会做的一样，他们会很感兴趣，说哇，这是什么？正在发生什么事情？
Then they see their father having the sex and they feel competition or something.
然后他们看到，因为自己的父亲在跟女性交合，所以呢，他们感觉到一种竞争心态。
But anyway, they're attracted by the sexual act that they think they see.
无论如何，他们会受到他们所以为自己看到的交合行为的现象的吸引，
Then they get stuck in the blood and the semen.
然后他们就被卡在了那个经血当中，
And they get frustrated and upset.
然后他们会感觉到沮丧，感觉到烦恼。
They die from their bardo existence with a feeling of kind of upset and angry.
所以他们从这个中有生当中带着一种沮丧的这样的不好的情绪死去。
And in Kesitu Ningtam Jor, they make the crossing into the new life.
然后他
In
们
that feeling.
带着这样在那样的感受当中就过河了，就去到了下一世。
Teta ki lamrim dingbodang de nyor ne chungwatar kunjung korwe jugrim samba. So all of this section that I've described to you so far and in this retreat.
然后呢，就是以上我跟大家讲过的所有这些内容，整个线上进修营讲的这些内容，
This is the contemplation on the source of the truth of the source of suffering.
然后这是基于对极地，也就是苦之因这个地的相关的思考。
We discussed negative emotions in the last retreat.
我们在上一个进修营讲到烦恼，
We discussed the karma those negative emotions cause you to make.
然后我们也讨论到那些烦恼使你造的业力，
And then we've described how that karma forces you into death, into bardo, and into a new life.
然后我们也讲到说那些业力如何驱使你去往死亡，然后到中有，然后再到下一世的受生。
This whole presentation of how we get in trouble with this life.
然后这整一个关于我们在今生当中如何陷入麻烦的整个讨论，
It's based on some famous Lamrim books.
是基于一些著名的道次第的书籍而讲的。
In general, there are 8 famous Lamrims.
总体来讲，有8本著名的道次第的经典。
And actually, this Lamrim, which is the 9th one,
实际上这一本道次经典，也就是第9本。
in this one, Paboka Rinpoche, in the 1920s, when he taught it, he used all 8 of those other Lamrims.
然后在这一本书当中，也就是说是帕崩卡仁波切在1920年所教授的，他其实引用了所有8本道次第的经典。
And at this point in his lecture,
所以在他的教授当中的此处，
he says, okay, this whole description that we've had in this retreat so far,
然后他就提到说，我们在这一次的进修营当中所提到的所有的这些讨论，
that's based on the middle length Lamrim of Jetsun Kapa.
然后他是基于就是宗喀巴大师所写的，就是中等长度的道次第论，
It's based on the path of bliss of the first Panchen Lama.
然后是基于就是一世班禅喇嘛所写的《乐道》这一本道次第经典。
And it's based on the book called Quick Path, which is by His Holiness the second Panchen Lama.
然后也另外一本基于的经典就是2世的班禅喇嘛所写的捷径。
Tani Lamrim Denya ki sache tu misashing. But let's turn to a different presentation which you don't really see clearly in those Lamrims.
然后呢，我们现在讲一讲另外一本你在那些道次第当中并不会能够清晰看到的相关的讨论。
Let's turn to the presentation of this subject of how lousy is this life as it was presented in the great Lamrim of Tsongkhapa.
我们去到菩提道次第广论，也就是宗喀巴大师所写的这本书当中关于今生有多么糟糕的相关的内容部分。
What outline does Tsongkhapa use in his very, very famous The Great Book on the Steps of the Path to describe how we get into this trouble, how we get into this life?
所以在宗喀巴大师非常非常著名的菩提道次第广论当中，他用了什么样的科判、什么样的框架来讨论说我们是如何进入到这个充满了麻烦的一生的这样的生命当中的。
And in Tsongkhapa's great book on the steps of the path,
然后在宗喀巴大师的伟大的这个广论这本书籍中，
he uses the teaching of the 12 links of dependence.
他就运用了12缘起支这个教授。
And we can kind of follow another book called Jampel Shalom, which is called The Word of the Gentle One, The Word of Manjushri.
然后还有另外一本道次第经典也是我们可以去跟随来依据的，它的名字叫做文殊口授。
This Lamrim was written by His Holiness the Fifth Dalai Lama.
然后这一本道次第是由五世尊者所写的。
Subject Sam Shuala. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to give you the outline. I'm not going to go into much detail.
那我只会给大家讲讲这个总体的科判，但是不会有太多的细节。
So we're actually going to move now to discussing how the trouble starts, but this time we're going to use the Wheel of Life.
所以这次我们会用生命之轮的相关的教授来讲讲这样的麻烦是如何开始的。
And let's go back to the text. Detar kunjin korwe jurim samsul dupa chena ngar shepate chogmo. Look, you can give this explanation of how we get into samsara based on that method we used up to now.
所以我们可以用就是我们之前一直都到现在为止在用的方法来讲述我们是如何陷入麻烦、陷入轮回当中的。
When Kyansani ki shungla jamba songwa soki, but I know there's people in the audience today,
但是
and same with you,
我知道，就是文中讲到，现场有这么一些观众，也跟在座各位在看的观众群一样，
who are interested in the great classics of Buddhism.
你们对这一些伟大的佛教的论点很有兴趣。
And that's kind of the emphasis of our group.
这其实是我们的这个群体的一个强调的重点。
We like to take the time to go deeper and deeper,
我们会很乐意就是花时间去越来越深入的学习，
and we go into the classics.
我们会直接回到那些经典当中。
And here, Pabonka Rinpoche says,
在此处，帕崩卡仁波切就说，
if you're that kind of person who wants to go deep,
如果你是那一类想要更深入学习的人，
Kazaki Kipagashi Dilecte, for those kind of special people, it would be better to give them the 12 links.
对于那一些很特别的人来讲，如果能够教给他们就是12缘起的话，那会更加的好。
And then he jumps horses
然后他就跳到了另外一匹马上，
and he starts to teach the whole system of how we get into trouble in this life.
然后他就开始教授整一个关于我们今生如何陷入麻烦的体系，
Based on this ancient teaching of the Wheel of Life.
就基于生命之轮的这一个古老的教授。
So first he mentions a little bit about the history of the Wheel of Life.
那首先呢，他谈及了一点点关于生命之轮的历史。
Once upon a time, long ago,
在很久很久以前有这么一会儿，
the king of central India.
然后印度中部的国王，
And he doesn't say that king's name, but we know it was Bimbisara. It's a king named Bimbisara.
然后他没有提到说这个中印度国王的名字，但是我们知道是宾比萨拉这个国王。
He sent a gift to Takopki Gyalpo, means to a king who was living in the outlying parts of India, not the center of India.
然后他送了一份礼物给另外一位住在印度边地，也就是不是印度中央，而是印度边地的一位国王。
That king's name was Udrayana. Sometimes they say Utrayana.
那这个国王的名字叫乌达亚纳。
And Udrayana had sent a very valuable gift to Bimbisara.
然后 has given back before.
Udrayana first sent a very valuable gift to
在
Bimbisara.
一开始，乌达亚纳其实送了一份非常珍贵的礼物给宾比萨尔国王。
It's a special, as I remember, it was a special suit of armor.
然后如果我没记错的话，是一种非常特别的这个盔甲，
And
一件很特别的盔甲。
Bimbisara couldn't decide on something more expensive to send back.
所以宾比萨尔国王就没办法决定怎么样能够回赠一件更加有价值的礼物。
So it ended up he asked Lord Buddha.
所以最后结果就是他去找了佛陀，
And Lord Buddha directed the painting of the Wheel of Life.
所以佛陀因此呢就去安排人，然后画下了《生命之轮》这幅画。
And I've been studying that for many years.
我有在学习这个内容很多年了。
And I think we made a book about it like 30 years ago.
那30年前我们还出了一本相关的书。
And we illustrated the book with some line drawings that we made.
我们还用一些我们所用的这个自己所画的线状的这些图像来解释生命之轮。
Based on the ancient stone carvings in Borobudur in Indonesia.
然后基于在印度尼西亚婆罗浮陀的那个古老的石板的雕塑上面，生命之轮的图像所画成的。
And you can see here an
插画。
image
这里你可以看到一张图，
of there's an elephant, and on top of the elephant there's a guy, and the guy has a box in his hands.
你可以看到有一只大象，大象上面坐一个人，那个人手中拿了一个盒子，
And he's delivering this gift from Bimbisara to King Udayana.
他在把宾比萨尔国王要送给乌扎亚那国王的礼物要送到给乌扎亚那国王。
And we translated that story.
我们有翻译了这个故事，
It's called King Udayana and the Wheel of Life.
叫这个故事叫做乌扎亚那国王与生命之轮的故事。
Gyoshe Gepe Rab means, and there's a recorded history
然后有一个所记录的历史，
of how Udayana, when he saw the painting of the 12 links,
讲到就是乌扎亚那在看到这个12缘起的画之后，
he got Gyoshe. Gyoshe means, this life is so much
他
suffering.
升起了这个出离心。出离心的意思就是说这一生真的太多的苦了。
So Pabonka Rinpoche says,
所以帕崩嘎仁波切就说，
let's follow those same 12 links and see if we can get the same kind of feeling about, oh man, this life is also.
我们来跟随这个12缘起支来看一看，学习一遍之后，我们自己能否升起这个生活真的太苦了这样的出离心，
Then we will want to get out.
然后我们就会想要逃离。
And that's the goal of this section of the Lamrim.
而那个就是这一部分道次第教授内容的目标。
He also says, Geshe Puchunwe Tendala Lojong Zejing Digone Kebo Chung Ding La Chitsusung. Pabonka Rinpoche, in his lecture,
帕崩嘎仁波切在他的教授当中
also described how we could develop these attitudes based on a teaching by Geshe Puchunwa.
然后他有提到说，我们如何可以基于格西普琼瓦所曾做的一个教授来修行。
This Geshe lived 1,000 years ago,
这位格西是1000年前的一位老师，
and he wrote a book about dependence.
他写了一本关于缘起的书籍。
And so we're going to move on to this teaching of dependence.
所以我们会继续要去讲到就是关于缘起的教授。
Here you can see the whole Wheel of Life painting
在这里你可以看到一整幅生命之轮完整的画，
that was presented to King
那
Udayana
是送给乌扎亚那国王的礼物，
by King Bimbisara.
由宾比萨拉所给予。
And I've studied, there are a few other sutras where Buddha sends this painting to people.
我也学习了另外几本佛经里面提到说，佛陀把这幅画送给了别人。
Sometimes he sends it to people who would not be able to read a sutra if he sent them a sutra.
有时候他会把这个画送给一些他没办法识字读经典的人。
And those are beautiful stories that you should study.
有很多这样子很美的故事，大家都应该去学习。
Now, there's a difference between the Wheel of Life and the 12 links.
然后在生命之轮跟12缘起之间呢，这个两者是有不同的。
The Wheel of Life includes the teaching on the 12 links, and here you see a separation of the isolation of the 12 links, the circle with the 12 links.
生命之轮的教授有包含就是12缘起的教授，在接下来这幅图当中，大家可以看到，我们可以专门从生命之轮当中抽出来关于12缘起的教授的独立的部分。
So technically, the teaching on these 12 links was presented separately from the wheel also.
所以啊，严格上来讲，这个12缘起的教授是独立于生命之轮的教授而讲的。
We're going to go back to the text now.
我们现在要回到那个原文当中。
Deryang gyawa shu trapa soki chir. So to try to give us the same feeling of being discouraged with this life.
尝试啊，要给予我们这种对今生感到气馁、沮丧的这种出离心的感受。
Journey, we're gonna start with that as a goal, and we're gonna go into a new subject with that goal.
我们会就是以此为目标，然后接着这个目标，然后去讲到一个新的主题。
We're gonna use Tendel Yenla Chuniki Gone. We're gonna use the 12 links.
我们将会运用这12缘起支。
Kunjung Korwe Nyemik Sampate to do our new contemplation about how terrible this life is and how we got into this trouble.
然后来重新的来做一些新的思维，关于就是这个极地轮回的过患，也就是说我们今生的是有多么的麻烦，多么的痛苦，然后我们又是怎么陷入到这种痛苦麻烦中的。
Now these 12 links were one of the great sources for these 12 links is a teaching by Lord Buddha.
那其中一个就是关于这12支的教授的经典来源是佛陀亲授的一本佛经。
In Tibetan, it's called Salu Jangbe Do, which you see here.
这里大家可以看到藏文叫做 Salu Chambe
Do.
Do，
And in Sanskrit,
梵文
that's a Shalistamba Sutra,
叫做 Shalistamba Sutra。
which means the sutra about a sprout of rice.
这里中文的意思就是稻杆经。
And he says, that's really where this idea of the 12 links started out. You should read that.
所以帕布干仁波切就提到说，这个真正的12缘起支的出处就是这本经，你应该要去好好学习一下。
Then he quotes that sutra briefly.
然后他简短的引用了这本经的内容。
Peyang diya pe dijung dike pe dikewa. Okay, very famous.
非常著名的一点。
In that sutra,
在那本佛经中，
Lord Buddha starts the discussion
佛陀是这样开始了这个讨论的。
by saying, if this is here, then this is going to be here.
他会这么说，就是如
Then
果
this is going to happen.
这个有的话，这个也会有，此生则彼生。
And if this thing starts, then this thing's going to start.
如果这个事情发生的话，那件事情就会发生。
And
还
the
有
whole trouble starts with misunderstanding the world.
所有的麻烦都是通过误解这个世界开始的，
Then we start to make karma,
然后我们就开始造业，
etc., etc.
等等等等。
And he doesn't say more from the sutra.
然后经中就没有讲更多了。
But I really like that sutra.
但是我真的很喜欢这本经，
So I'm going to inject a little bit of the sutra in today's session.
所以在今天这堂课当中，我会加入一点点，就是这本道感经当中的内容。
It's going to make the session a little longer,
它将会让这堂课更长一些，
and I don't care.
但是我并不管，
So just be patient.
所以请大家保持耐心，
And this is fun,
这是很好玩的。
and we're going to go deeper.
我们要讲得更深，
That's the way we're doing the steps on the path.
这个就是我们来学习道次第的方式。
So I like the first paragraph or two of that sutra.
我很喜欢就是这本佛经当中的第1、2段，
And I've included it in the reading for you.
我已经为大家就是把这些内容加入到我们的阅读材料当中了。
Dila chomden de chuki dakpo tamche kempe. Now, because the Buddha knows everything that there is in the whole universe,
那因为佛陀就是晓知在这个宇宙当中的所有一切诸法，
he said to the monks who came to the teaching,
他对那些来参加到这个教授的出家众说
Gelondak, hey you monks,
哦，各位出家人，
si tenching dewa junga tonga te chitongo. Anyone who sees that things happen independent on each other,
就是诸比丘，任何能见事物依缘起而生的人，
the person who understands dependence understands my dharma.
那个懂得缘起法的人，就懂得我的佛法教授。
And anyone who understands, sorry, let's put it this way.
好，抱歉，我们重新再讲一遍。
Any person who sees that things work in dependence on each other,
任何能见事物依缘起而运作之人，
That person sees the real Dharma.
这样的人明白了真正的佛法。
And if a person sees that real Dharma,
如果一个人能够明白了这个真正的佛法的话，
dependence,
也就是缘起，
then they saw the Buddha.
他们就看见了佛陀。
So who said that?
谁说的呢？
The Buddha.
佛陀本人。
Okay? If you see how things depend on each other,
如果你能够明白就是事物是如何相互依存依缘而生的话，
then you saw my true Dharma.
你就看到了我的真正的佛法。
And if you see my true Dharma,
如果你看到了我所说的真正的佛法，
then you actually saw me.
那实际上你就真正的看见了我。
Then Tanjin Dewa Juma Kanshana. So everyone, of course, the monks all said, whoa, what's this dependence thing? We want to see. We
那
want to see.
当然所有的这个比丘都会说，那到底这个缘起是什么呢？我们想要知道，我们想要明白。
Tanjin Dewa Juma Kanshana. Well, what is dependent?
那何谓缘起？
Who's talking?
谁在说话？Buddha，
Buddha. Yeah.
佛陀在说话。
Oh, Tanjin Dewa Juma Shijani. You want to know what dependence
你
is?
想要知道什么是缘起吗？
Titate. Well, here's how it is.
那 Dita 的以下为缘起。
Di yupe di jung. If this happens, this happens.
如果此生则彼生，
Di kepe di chitike. And if this starts, then that's going to
如果
start.
这个开始，那这个就会开始。
Okay? And then they're like, well, what do you mean?
然后他们就问说，那你什么意思呢？
And he says, look, if you don't understand the world,
然后佛陀作答说，听好了，如果你不明白这个世界，
if you misunderstand the world,
如果你误解了这个世界，
then you're going to make karma.
那你就会造业。
If you make karma,
那如果你造业，
you make awareness.
你就会创造觉知。
If you make awareness,
如果你创造了觉知，
you make body and mind.
然后你就创造了身心。
If you make body and mind,
如果你创造了身心，
you make the 6 doors of sense.
然后你就创造了六根之门。
If you have the 6 doors of
如
sense,
果你有了这六根之门，
you make contact with the outside world.
你就跟外在的世界创造了接触，产生了接触。
If you make contact with the outside,
如果你创造了与外界世界的接触，
then you're going to feel
你
feelings.
就会有感到种种的感受。
If you feel
如果
feelings,
你有这种感受，
then desire is going to start.
然后欲望将会升起。
If desire starts,
如果欲望升起，
desire is going to grow.
欲望将会扩散。
If desire grows,
如果欲望扩散增大，
you will be born.
你将会受生。
If you are born,
如果你又受生，
you must get old and you must
你
die.
一定会衰老，你一定会死去，
And you will suffer.
你将会受苦，
You will cry out in pain.
你会在痛苦中挣扎，
More and more pain in your life.
你的生命当中会有越来越多的痛苦，
And more sadness in your heart.
你的心中会有越来越多的悲伤，
And then truly chaos.
然后是完全的、真正的混乱。
This whole life
这一生
is a mountain of pain.
是如群山般的痛苦。
Then I think everybody's like,
然后我想每个人听了这个
you
之
know,
后
you
就会
can
有这样
feel
的
the
感
monks
受
are，sitting there
你
going,
能够感觉到那些比丘会有这样的感受。
you know, and I think automatically everyone in the room or everyone in the field,
我想就是所有在场的人，
they think, well, can we do anything about it?
那他们会想说，那我们到底能不能做点什么呢？
The Buddha's like, 没有问题, no problem.
佛陀说没有问题 ，No problem。
Marik bagabe duchekak. If you stop misunderstanding your world, you won't make this bad karma.
如果你能够停止去误解你的世界的话，你就不会再造这样的恶业了。
If you don't make karma anymore, you don't have this negative awareness
如
that
果
we have.
你不造业的话，不再造业的话，你就不会有我们现在这样的负面的觉知。
If you don't have that kind of awareness, you're not going to pick up a painful body and mind inside your mom.
然后如果你没有那种负面的觉知的话，你就不会在母胎里面能够受得这样痛苦的身心。
If you stop that mortal body and mind inside your mom, you're not going to have the sense organs.
如果你能够停止在你母胎当中所获得的这个会死去的身体与身心的话，你就不会有这六门
Those painful senses.
那些痛苦的六根。
If you can stop them,
如果能停止这些的话，
then you don't make painful contact with the world.
你就不会创造跟这个世界的痛苦的接触。
If you stop painful contact with the world,
如果你如果你消灭了这种痛苦的触，
then you stop painful
你
feelings.
就能够结束这些痛苦的感受。
If you stop those feelings,
如果你停止这些受，
you will stop the beginning of
你
desire.
就会能够停止欲望的开始。
If you stop the beginning of desire, you will stop the more deep kinds of desire.
如果你能够停止欲望的开始，你当然就能够停止更深的欲望。
If you stop that advanced desire, then you won't trigger the karma at death, which we've been taught.
如果你能够停止那种更高的欲望的话，你就不会在死亡的时候，就是我们之前讲的，在死亡的时候触发那些业力。
And by the way, I think I forgot to mention it, that link before, just now. I didn't mention that one. But your karma's triggered.
就是刚刚在上一轮当中，我想我忘记提到说，你在死时会有业力触发，
If you stop how the karma is triggered,
但是如果你停止这些所触发的业力，
then you can stop having these deadly rebirths.
然后你就会停止再有这种一定会死去的受生。
If you stop these deadly rebirths,
如果你能够停止这些致死的受生，
no more aging and death in the old way.
那就不会再有之前那种衰老、死亡，
No more sadness.
不再有悲伤，
No more crying out in pain.
不在痛苦中哭泣，
No more physical pain.
不再有物质上的、身体上的苦，
No more mental pain.
不再有意识当中的苦，
And no more of the chaos of this life.
不再有这一生的混乱。
And that's how you stop this big mountain of stuff.
这就是你去停止这整座大山般痛苦的方法。
And this concludes the statement, the first big statement by Lord Buddha of the 12 Links.
这就是佛陀第一个关于生命之轮的教授的结尾。
Now, last thing before we stop,
那我们本堂课结束前的最后一件事情，
couple things I'd like to share with you.
有几点是想跟大家分享的。
So you know we have a group of translators. They are translating the ancient books.
那大家也知道，我们有一支这样的翻译团队，他们在翻译古老的经典。
And we chose 18 of the most important great ancient classics from each of the great schools.
我们选择了就是18本能够代表了各个古老的学派当中的最重要的经典。
And one of the books we are translating,
我们其中一本在翻译的经典，
and the translator is Sugeng Shi, who's also from Indonesia and Singapore.
译者呢，他的名字叫苏根习，然后呢，他也来自于新加坡和印尼。
He's translating a very deep, very detailed, very long book about these 12 links.
他在翻译着一本关于这12支的非常深、非常长的经典。
It was written, I checked, in 1550, around 1550.
他大概是1550年所写的。
And I checked to see what was happening in the Western countries at that time.
我查了一下，就是在那段时期，就是西方社会在发生什么事情。
They estimate this was the year that Shakespeare was born.
他们估计啊，就是那一年是
And
莎士比亚出生的日子，对。
and this is the year that Michelangelo did some famous paintings
然后
in Rome.
也是那一年呢，就是 Michelangelo 做了一些非常著名的绘画的一年。
So we're about to go into the 12 links from the Wheel of Life.
那我们即将要进入到就是生命之轮当中的12支。
But if you're a very ambitious student who wants to go deep, deep, deep,
但是如果你是一个有雄心壮志、想要深入学习的学生，
then I strongly suggest you go read the translation that Sugeng has finished so far. He's not finished with the whole book, but he's almost finished.
那我就强烈的建议你去读一读苏根到目前为止所对这本书所做的翻译，虽然没有全部完成，但是他也即将要完成了。你可以先读一读他目前已经翻完的内容。
And we're going to put up here for you the link to the website.
我们将会把这个对应这本书的链接放到视频当中给你。
All those 18 translations that we are working on,
我们所有在翻译的这18本书，
the greatest books of the greatest schools of the last 2,500 years.
就是在过去2500年当中最伟大的那些学派当中所能够最伟大的代表作。
You can go read them for free on the website.
你可以在我们这个网站上免费的去阅读我们的翻译。
And we call our little group the unofficial official name is Mixed Nuts.
然后我们这个翻译团队呢，小小的翻译团队，一个非官方的官方名叫做混合坚果，
Because we're all a little bit crazy.
因为我们都有一点点疯狂。
And we come from a whole mixture of different cultures in
然
the
后我
world.
们是来自于一个完全混合的这个文化跟各种各样不同的背景，
So, if you really want to go deeper into this subject,
所以如果你真的想要深入这个主题
I
的话，
strongly suggest you go read Su Gang's translation, which is available for free on the website.
我强烈的建议你去阅读就是苏根的这本译作，而且我们已经免费的把内容放到了网站上了。
Now, if you get excited about that,
那如果你对这个已经感觉到很兴奋了，
and someday you want to learn translation yourself,
然后哪一天起你突然想自己来学习做这种翻译，
there are 300,000 books, not 18. We need help.
就是有30万本要翻的书，不是说只有18本，所以我们是需要你的帮助的。
Then you should start listening to those translation classes.
那你就应该要去开始听那些翻译课了。
Are they difficult? Yes, they are difficult.
难吗？很难。
Will you get confused at the beginning? Yes, you will get confused at the beginning.
开始会不会听晕？会的，开始会听晕。
Will you be like Master Xuanzang back in the Tang Dynasty who started a whole tradition for 1 billion people?
那你会不会像回到唐朝时期伟大的玄奘大师一样，他为10多亿人开启了一个完全全新的学派？
Yeah, you can help.
那你是可以来帮助的。
So there are 600 free translation classes online.
所以我们总共有目前600堂免费的翻译课放在了网上。
Go to YouTube.
你可以上到 YouTube 这个网站，
It's called Tibetan Language Channel.
然后它这个频道名叫做 Tibetan Language Channel。
Maybe if you're very interested in the 12 links,
如果或许你对这12支非常感兴趣的话，
you can follow the classes that Sugang had,
你可以去跟着就是苏根所上的这个翻译课来一堂堂来听，
which is almost 100 classes.
几乎有100堂。
Okay, now,
那现在，
if you're very ambitious,
如果你真的有很大的雄心壮志，
like you really want to go deep, 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 deep,
你
deep,
真的想要很深很深很深的学习，
I think those classes,
我认为那些翻译课
which are being held in this building in the Sedona College of International Management in Sedona, Arizona, USA.
那些课呢，就是在我们美国亚利桑那州圣多纳的圣多纳国际管理学院，就是我们的这一栋楼进行的。
We are covering every major school of 25 centuries of Buddhism.
我们在讲的内容包含了25世纪以来佛教当中的每一个主要学派的内容。
And I'm putting up here an email address
然后我在这里为大家放上了一个邮箱地址
of Nick Lasha,
，Nick Lasha 的邮
Who's
箱地址，
director of the program.
他是我们这个翻译项目的负责。
Those programs are held 3 times a year for 2 weeks.
这些翻译的项目呢，每年会有3次，每次会持续2个星期。
I think truly it's one of the big moment in history.
我是真的认为这是历史上的其中一个重大的时期，
And to me, we would love to have you come.
所以对我来讲，我非常愿意能够有大家来参与。
You start as an observer in the
你
class,
从就是课堂当中的一个观察者开始，
and then slowly you become a translator.
慢慢的你可以成为一名翻译。
And here's a picture of one of the classes.
以下是我们其中一堂课的一张照片，
And I would love to see you there.
我很希望能够见到大家，在这个翻译课堂上，
Very, very welcome to come.
非常非常欢迎大家来参加。
And I believe it's one of the most important things in this world.
我相信这是在这个世界上最为重要的其中一件事情。
So that's session 10.
这便是我们的第10堂课。
Thanks to Stanley.
谢谢 Stanley 的翻译
Thanks to Tim for
谢谢。
getting it all organized.
，Team 组织的所有的工作，
And we're about to step into the wheel of life.
我们即将要迈入生命之轮了。
We'll see you then.
到时候见，
Session 11.
第11堂课见。